Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Reimagine Jobs Spotlight on Sustainable Construction. I am your guest moderator tonight, Leslie Montgomery. I first want to thank the event organizers who are behind this event, and to Mark Dixon for managing the Zoom for this event. So in my day job, I work at Green Building Alliance, managing the education and training program there. At GBA, we've worked for almost 30 years to transform the built environment all the way through the supply chain and into building operations. We know that this is critical for economic development and for health, social equity, and climate. So I'm just so excited to be here tonight because I think we're going to have a really important conversation. At Green Building Alliance, our programs, other than education and training, include the Pittsburgh 2030 District, the Green and Healthy Schools Academy, the Inspire Speaker Series, a Sustainable Communities Initiative. And most recently, we launched the Greater Pittsburgh United Nations Center for Excellence on High Performance Buildings, which is a public-private partnership aimed at bringing all of these regional initiatives to the next level and rapidly transforming the built environment from everything from our buildings to our supply chain to our energy systems. So at GBA, we work with our partners to work towards a vision where every building and every community is sustainable so that every person can thrive. And that brings me to tonight and all of the wonderful people that we're going to be hearing from. So I'm honored to be joined by several panelists tonight. You're going to hear a lot of great conversations and presentations. So this is managed, as you know, by the Reimagine Jobs Showcase, which was a website launched in 2020. You can check it out at reimaginejobs.org. The goal of that website is to highlight sustainable economic development initiatives and job opportunities in Southwestern Pennsylvania. It features local businesses and organizations in 9 sectors of sustainable economic development. Tonight's program, which is focused on sustainable construction, is the 4th in a series of programs that's going to take a deeper look at each of those 9 sectors. We encourage you to take a look at the website and explore all of the exhibitors and opportunities. So tonight, all of our panelists include Craig Ripple from Trinity Development and Zosia Brown from Nexi, Jeff Murray from Canon Design, Monica Serrano of Turner Construction, Andrew Ellsworth of Doors Unhinged, and Nick Rubenstein of Evolve EA. I'll introduce each speaker, and their presentations will highlight current initiatives that are employing people in our community and different ways in which construction careers can continue to grow here in our region. So a quick note about tonight. Zosia and Craig need to log off early, so we're going to be doing their presentation first. We'll be doing a quick Q&A with them following their presentation. So you can put your questions in the chat and I will manage your questions and we'll get to as many as we can. If you have more specific questions, we'll do questions for the rest of our panelists as a group, and then we'll do breakout session at the end so that you can talk and have more intimate conversations. When it's time for breakout rooms after the Q&A, you'll get to choose your own breakout room. So you'll see something pop up on your screen that will let you opt into a certain breakout room. If you need any help, just stay in the main room and Mark can help you. Okay, so I'm going to kick it right off here. We're going to introduce Craig and Zosia here. So Zosia Brown's passion for shaping a future in which both people and natural systems thrive drives her position as Senior Sustainability Advisor with Nexi. Her notable roles include leading resource efficiency, zero waste, climate resilience, and a sustainability engagement platform as head of resource conservation and sustainability at Woodland Park Zoo in Seattle, Washington. And strategic sustainability focused roles with both Bureau Hapwood Consulting and SGS Group Management. Zosia's PhD in resource management, environmental studies focused on green building performance and post-occupancy evaluation. She brings over 15 years of experience in driving sustainable change and environmental policy in organizations across North America and Europe to the Nexi team. Zosia's deep and consistent focus on the interface of humans, the natural world, and the built environment is at the heart of Nexi's mission and operations. And Zosia is joined in her presentation along with Craig Ripple from Trinity Commercial Development, which is based here in Pittsburgh. Trinity is a full-service commercial firm, and Craig is a principal. He has almost 25 years of experience developing big box retail, neighborhood shopping centers, single-tenant retail, light industrial, and offices. He's working, as you may have heard, with Pittsburgh native and Hollywood actor Michael Keaton on the formation of a newly formed Nexi certified manufacturing company that will benefit the industry from the industry knowledge of Trinity Commercial Development. So we're so excited to hear from both of you, and I am going to let you take it away.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Leslie. Zoe, sharing screen, okay? Well, thank you. Thanks again, Leslie. We're honored and excited to tell you about the jobs that will be created as a result of Nexi coming to Pittsburgh. On the next slide, well, it's introducing myself and Zosha again, but you just gave the introduction, so we can go to the next one. But a little bit about Trinity. Trinity is, as you said, it's been developing and redeveloping properties around Western Pennsylvania for the last 25 years. But our roots run deep in the construction industry. This is actually a picture from 1954. It's the Rapoli brothers, which my grandfather and his brothers, and they're building the Uanza Village, which is an Allegheny County Housing Authority community located in the Keys Rocks. But you're not here to hear about me. You want to hear about the opportunity, the initiative, the partnership we formed to bring Nexi to Pittsburgh. And a key component to that is Michael Keaton. He's a self-proclaimed unabashed environmentalist. He loves Pittsburgh. He is committed to creating sustainable jobs, green jobs here in the city. And he is leaning in hard and putting his money where his mouth is. So to understand a problem or to address a problem, you first have to understand it. When you really look at the composition of carbon emissions worldwide, you'll see that 39% of carbon emissions come from the building and construction industry. When you dig a little bit deeper, you find out that cement accounts for 8% of the world. That's the number one emitter, but it also accounts for 8% of the world's global emissions. And then another problem with the antiquated construction and building industry is waste. I've seen statistics: 33 to 50% of the amount of solid waste in a landfill comes from the construction industry. In the U.S., it's probably closer to 25 because of our recycling efforts. But either way, it's twice as much as municipal solid waste, the stuff that gets picked up every week in front of your house. So it certainly is a big problem. Now, as far as the solution to those problems, Nexi is that solution. But it really is a couple components to it. It's a material itself. It's a green construction material or building material, but it's also a system, a sustainable and energy efficient and labor efficient system. And together that creates the Nexi solution. And I'll let Zosha talk a little bit more about those two, the material and the system.
Thanks, Craig. So Nexi's mission is to build a vibrant future for people and planet. And we're doing this by retrofitting existing buildings and designing new buildings so that they're net positive, green, healthy, safe, and resilient. And I want to dive straight into a video that shows how our Starbucks building came together. Sorry about the lack of audio there. It was some music in the background, so didn't miss much of the most of the key facts were on the video itself. But if you want to take a closer look, that video of the Starbucks coming together is available on our website. So hopefully that gives you a sense of of how we put buildings together, but I just wanted to talk a bit about our solution. So as Craig mentioned, it's both a building product and a building technology, so how we assemble buildings. And this is a close-up look here of a small snapshot of one of our panels right at the corner where they come together. So we're producing large format panels, 10 to 30 feet in size, and they are bolted together in assembly on site. They're designed to be resilient and have the ability to deconstruct as well at the end of a building's life. So what you're seeing here is Nexite, which is our proprietary material, a green alternative to concrete. And Nexite serves as the finished material on the inside and outside of our panels. It eliminates the need for traditional wood framing, steel framing, insulation, drywall, vapor barriers, siding, roofing, and flooring systems. So really a fully finished product when it arrives to site. As a material, Nexite is incredibly strong. And because of that, it allows us to build very lightweight panels that weigh about a sixth the weight of a traditional concrete panel. It also forms a covalent bond with the insulation, so we don't need to use additional sealants there. So we focused initially on our commercial retail unit, and that what we call a CRU, and that's because they're simple buildings with a simple footprint and easy to replicate and scale. So a great one to learn from. And of course, typical commercial retail units have really high embodied carbon, both embodied and operational. They produce a lot of landfill waste from the construction process. They can take 4 to 6 months to build on site, susceptible to wind, fire, and water damage, and often produce off-gassing through using toxic materials. What we accomplished with our Starbucks CRU, which came together in December last year, is Nexi provided the structural solutions, so the walls and the roof, and as I mentioned, exterior finished and interior paint-ready panels. Our panels achieve 20% less embodied carbon compared to steel stud or tilt-up concrete, 43% reduction in operational carbon emissions, and a highly insulated envelope that's incredibly airtight. So we're seeing 40% better air tightness rates compared to conventional build. Near zero on-site construction waste. All the waste that we bring on site is the materials we're using to protect the panels and transportation. So that all comes back with us to the manufacturing plant and it's reused. And 99% free of red list free materials with reduced off-gassing. So this is the accumulation of several years of work, and we've built a number of those CRUs, but this is only the launching pad. We need to get to net zero or positive energy as soon as we can, and we've now cracked the code on how to do that. So we're working with leading technology partners and several marquee retail brands who want a whole building solution. This here, the smart green building with integrated technologies, is what needs to replace all of our conventional CRUs going forward as fast as possible. Our initial modeling that we've done on this high-performing CRU suggests that we can get to 80% reduced CO2 emissions this year, which is equivalent to net zero energy ready. All that's missing is the on-site renewable. And with this vertical alone, we project to be able to eliminate about 15 million tons of climate pollution over the next 5 years. This is our manufacturing plant soon to open here in Squamish, BC, and I'll hand it back over to Craig to talk about our exciting announcement in the Pittsburgh region.
Yeah, so going back to the plant, our plan is to, we're still trying to determine the actual square footage, but we'll be somewhere between 150,000 and 250,000 square feet. We have been out looking at sites. We're committed to focus on former brownfield sites that are located in underinvested communities, preferably that are also opportunity zones. But again, part of the plant will include some customer-facing components like a design center or showroom and a training facility. As far as the jobs in there, we talked about 300 plus jobs. They will be comprised of design, assembly, and manufacturing of the precision engineered panels. And then Zosha is going to talk a little bit about the types of finishes that are offered.
Yeah, so just to recap, Nexi offers a simple and flexible solution. And in order to be able to scale, that means to all building types. So our immediate focus is on commercial and industrial verticals, but we can do many different building types. And as I mentioned, large scale panels that can be adjusted according to the design. And finishes, of course, a range of finishes depending on the need or what's specified by the architect.
200 different finishes that are available.
Just a snapshot of what those are here on this slide. And just to close, I wanted to pull us back out to the big scale and remind us that we're all here for one purpose, and that's to make the planet better, to leave it better. And in Nexi, that means really thinking about long-term impacts that we want to deliver as a company across environment, social, and economic impact areas. So we put a lot of thought into what those are, and have outlined these 8 impact areas for the company. Net zero carbon pollution, eliminate waste, support healthy ecosystems, reinvent how the world builds, drive low carbon growth, build equity and inclusion, transform living standards, and really strengthen community resilience. So, it's going to be really exciting to get to that net zero world that we're all driving towards. And we're really proud to be a part of the solution towards net zero, and also to provide optimism around the future and our ability to get there. So that wraps up our presentation. I will stop my screen share and happy to entertain questions.
Thank you so much to both of you. That was great. And I know we were all really excited to hear that announcement. So thank you for filling us in. Thank you also for staying for a couple of minutes for questions. We do have a couple. There was definitely one about jobs, which you have already answered, but somebody asked a question about the time frame of the project. Do you have any ballpark on that?
Yeah, we're looking to build the plant using the Nexi construction material and building material and system. So, the first plan is opening this summer in Hazleton, Pennsylvania. So our desire would be to source the panels from there. There are some other alternatives with some retrofits of existing buildings, but with new development, it's a 12 to 18 month process. So we're thinking, the end of next summer.
Great. Thank you. And I really appreciated, just from the little bit that you all shared, sort of the holistic nature of the product and particularly the construction of the Starbucks that you used as an example. Somebody did ask a really good question in the chat about, I guess you could call it the life cycle of the product, or, its ability to be reused, after the fact, or do you have a buyback program or anything like that?
Yeah, that's something that durability and resilience of the panels has been a real priority from the very beginning. And of course, it's difficult to test because you have to be around for 50, 75, 100 years to actually test the durability of the products. We're going through a series of testing now with third-party providers on the durability side. But certainly on the reusability, the panels are designed to be bolted together. And if you watch a building coming together, it's quite incredible how few people have, it's literally just bolting with cranes, and comes together very quickly, and similarly can be deconstructed at the end of life. So all of the materials in the panels are recyclable, and we are testing that as well on a laneway house here in Vancouver.
Okay, that's wonderful. We had another question in the chat about cost comparability, which I know may be hard to answer since it can sort of replace all sorts of different products, but do you have any data on that?
So on the cost side, when we put together a package, we're really focusing on the total value of the product. So we look at cost as well as the embodied carbon savings, as well as the total cost of ownership. So it's hard to put a number on just the cost comparison, but we're certainly trying to be competitive as well as providing an extremely high valuable product.
Absolutely. I can understand that. If you guys have time to check the chat before you go, we have some good suggestions for different brownfield sites in the region. Somebody asked, is there a height limit to what you can build with this type of system?
So we have a couple of different types of panels. There's a structural panel, which can operate on its own. And then we also have a high performance envelope panel that would accompany a structural system in place. And for that, we can build as high as you like. So we're working on a number of high performance buildings where Nexi is offering just the envelope. So there's no limit there.
That's great. Okay, great. I think the last question that I just want to ask, because I know we need to move on to our next speaker, I wanted to give you both the chance to answer a question that the rest of our speakers will be answering later, which is, what advice would you give to somebody who's seeking a job in the sustainable construction industry?
What advice? Well, our intention is to work with workforce development agencies to prepare them. And again, with my background and experience, looking to hire locally in communities that are underinvested. I would say, look for those programs that are available already and start to prepare for those coming. There's some basic skill sets that are required, but there is a bit of a shift when you're constructing inside a facility and manufacturing precision engineered panels. So I would say that I would probably look to those workforce development agencies that are available now to get the basic skills and anticipate of the wave of sustainable construction jobs coming.
And I would just add to that, I think in terms of sustainability, there's so many opportunities and problems that need tackling. And I like this idea of this nexus. So really think about, what are the problems that we need to solve? What are the skills that you bring to the table, and what gets you out of bed in the morning? And that nexus is where you want to be focusing your efforts.
Just to follow up on that, because it reminds me of something that we've talked about a lot, the difference between commitment and compliance. And for me, the aha moment was being a developer. And then, when I started to learn through Nexi and find out the impact that development was having on the environment, I was looking for a different way to do things. So the first to understand that, the impact that you do have, and then make a commitment to address it. And I think that goes back to what you're saying, Zosha.
Those are great points. Well, thank you so much to both of you. We really appreciate you joining the panel and sharing the story here. I know we were all really excited. I hope you'll consider a green building tour in the future with GBA. If you have just a moment or two to stay on after, there are a few more questions in the chat if you have a chance to get to them, but otherwise I know you got to get going. So thank you both. You did.
Thanks for having us.
We really appreciate it. Thank you so much. All right, well, I'm going to introduce Jeff Murray now from Canon Design, who is our next speaker. So Jeff has been providing design leadership for complex projects, supporting research and other knowledge work throughout his 3-decade career. He's a member of the College of Fellows of the American Institute of Architects, the FAIA, recognized for his innovation in the design of scientific research facilities worldwide, which focus specifically on how buildings can be more environmentally friendly and how architectural design impacts human performance and collaboration. He has pioneered working methods that engage stakeholders as active participants in the design process, and he's presented at many national and international conferences on the human and technical aspects of architectural design. Jeff works with corporate, government, and higher education clients, and that includes the design of research and administrative facilities, high-performance building envelopes, renovations and additions, and smart buildings which integrate technology, sustainability, and resilience to improve occupant experience. Welcome, Jeff. All right.
Hi, Leslie. Thank you so much for that introduction. I'm going to share my screen and get started. Thank you again. I'm really honored to be here and represent Canon Design and really the architectural practices. I'm going to talk a lot about design and the different kinds of jobs that are available here. First, a little about Canon Design. We opened an office in Pittsburgh through acquisition about 6-7 years ago. We have 18 other offices, 2 of them international, and currently we have about 1,000 people. 1/3 of those people, about 330 people, are actually owners in the firm. So we have a very broad ownership structure with our firm. We focus on healthcare, educational, corporate, and governmental markets. As a firm, we're much more than an architecture firm. We're broadly, I would say, a broadly defined and diverse design firm that involves architecture, consulting, engineering, interior design, lighting design, et cetera, et cetera. You can see all the different things here on the calendar. Right now, we're looking for about 130, 140 job openings right now for our firm. We're rapidly growing. So more than a 10% increase in our size we need to do in the next several months. Several of those opportunities are available right here in Pittsburgh. I think the short message on myself and my journey is you can take the boy out of Pittsburgh, but you can't take the Pittsburgh out of the boy. I grew up here in Penn Hills, left when I was 17, went to school in the Midwest, worked all over the country in different major cities, and returned to Pittsburgh in 2003. Canon Design, our commitment is to living-centered design, and really broadly speaking, our goal is to help life flourish. And not just to help people flourish, but to help life flourish. And I want to say that we're moving beyond an anthropocentric perspective on what we do and our impacts. It was mentioned that I focus on the design of research buildings. Currently, I'm working with 4 national laboratories from the Department of Energy and 2 universities on the design of research facilities. We're going to be, those research facilities are going to be exploring issues like climate change, the energy-water nexus, renewable energy, and alternatives to plastic. I've been very fortunate in my career. I've been able to work on projects all over the world. You can see some of these projects you'll recommend here locally in Pittsburgh, or you'll recognize, and then many of them are from other parts of the country or the world. The upper left-hand corner is the Australian Institute of Nanoscience. Science projects, research projects are very interesting, very complex, and also they're very energy intensive. So the work we do on trying to make these projects more sustainable is really critical. When we look at the building industry more broadly, I look at it as 4 different sectors, all of which help combine to make the building industry. Designers like myself, suppliers like Nexi, who we just saw present, builders like Turner that we're going to hear from later, and then also operators, people who operate buildings. And I'm going to say that the opportunities to be able to operate smart, sustainable buildings in the future is going to, I think, grow significantly. I guess the first point I want to make as we talk about design and sort of pitch why design is a great career path is that design is a team sport. So when you hear somebody say something like Frank Gehry designed some high rise, that's really a very misleading statement. What should have been said was Frank Gehry led the design. Design is a team sport. It takes hundreds and hundreds of people to design complex projects. And what we design for as whether you're an architect, an engineer, or whatever, the legacy, which has traditionally been what we design for, that's a very small part of what we do, and it really is the least important. We design for our clients, we design for the greater community, and we design for the environment. My belief is when we design for the clients, community, environment, the legacy takes care of itself. They're really one of the reasons why being in the design of the built environment is so exciting and so challenging is because of these 4 issues: complexity, sustainability, resilience, and place. So the types of research buildings that I work on, I would say they're probably 1,000 times more complex than a Gothic cathedral. We just have so many different building systems and everything, so many different issues. Now, that complexity is driven partly by the needs to design buildings more sustainably. It's also driven by technology, driven by more complex societal needs. So all those things come together. And as was mentioned earlier, when we look at buildings and their impact on the environment, I like to say that sustainable design is really about what buildings do to the world. And we focus on two aspects: embodied carbon, which has to do with the carbon that goes into the making of the building itself, and then operational carbon, which has to do with how the building is operated and how it operates over time. Another sort of complementary issue that's really critical in design is resilient design. And this is really about what the world does to buildings. And we see this more and more with climate change, what's happening, and how do we design buildings to more effectively protect property, material, and contents. So there's two real factors there in terms of making resilient buildings. One is, again, obviously being robust and durable, but the other is about being flexible and adaptable. And then finally, buildings are really a critical component to what we call placemaking. And neuroscience, cognitive science are rapidly discovering that the places where we live are deeply entangled with the quality of our life and how we live and work and play. And so if you're interested in making lives better, if you're interested in making the world better, then design is really something you should think about. Just a couple examples locally of projects that I've been involved in, that I've led the design on. This is the Industrial Scientific headquarters. It's an incredibly cool client. They're a homegrown company here in Pittsburgh. They're very passionate about the city. I think if you've seen this building along the Parkway West towards the airport, you'll notice that it's sited kind of uniquely. The site was really a degraded site. It was built out of spoils from the interchange construction a decade or so before this. So we were able to take a kind of a crappy, degraded site and make it better. The building is oriented in such a way so that, as you look at the diagram in the upper left, so that it can harvest the sun. There was a commitment to do daylight harvesting. All the lighting is on controls so that when natural light from the sun is filtered into the building, the artificial light can dim down. One of the things that the CEO challenged us to do was to make the manufacturing space as nice as the office space. He did not want people who work on the floor have any difference in quality of experience from the people working in the offices. So what you see in the lower left there is really what we think of as one of the most beautiful manufacturing spaces anywhere in the region. They get the best light. They've got a great view. They've got broad north light like you would see in an artist studio. And what we have seen from providing that kind of quality of space is that productivity in the manufacturing of industrial scientific safety devices and gas detectors has improved drastically since they moved into the new space. This is another, now we've talked, one of the things about Industrial Scientific is that building is built to last over 100 years. So when we talk about embodied carbon, making a building that's flexible and adaptable and can last for a long time is really a critical aspect of making a more resilient and more sustainable built environment. This project here, which is actually from the UK for Southampton University, is a high-tech nano research facility. But when we designed this facility, we were able to have a 40% reduction in operational carbon on this facility. And this is critical because clean rooms and specialized labs in this facility require lots of energy, lots of cooling, lots of ventilation in order to operate for the science they do. So any percentage reduction that we do in a project like this actually has a much bigger impact than, say, a conventional office building or a conventional school building. And then finally, our house here in Pittsburgh. We've worked on this now for almost 20 years, slowly making it better, making it more energy efficient with new systems, improving the building envelope with much more thermal insulation on the roofs and the walls. From a character perspective, we really wanted the building to be warmer, have a more natural look. And, we were very blessed and very fortunate that we've been able to live in a modest, but very beautiful place that has been great for our body, mind, and spirit. And thank goodness, because we've been hunkered down in this place for the last year, like all the rest of you. So move on to the last slide. And again, I want people to be aware of how diverse the design industry is and how complex it is, and also that it has a very big diversity in scale. There are very big design firms, but also very small ones. You can see the range of projects we work on, but here's just a brief listing of some of the type of roles and professions and careers that you can take on and be a part of designing the built environment and making the world a better place. Thank you, Leslie. I'm done.
Thank you so much, Jeff. That was really great. And there are so many things about your philosophy that I really appreciate. So I'm so glad you boomeranged back to Pittsburgh. And I really enjoyed seeing some of the examples and really hearing about how, some of those projects really prioritized a healthy and inspiring workplace for the manufacturing team in addition to the office. So thank you. Thanks so much, Jeff. And folks, if you have questions, continue to put them in the chat and you'll get some time with each speaker in the breakout room as well. So both Jeff and our presenters before Jeff have mentioned durability and resilience, and I know that's something that our next speaker is passionate about as well. So I'm going to introduce Monica Serrano here. Monica leads the resilience program at Turner Construction. She has held roles in all phases of the construction process in her 16 years in the industry. Monica considers climate change one of the biggest threats to humanity and is constantly pushing the bar in the aspects of resiliency, climate adaptation, and mitigation. She's a past USGBC New Jersey chapter board member, a current active member of ULI and ASAP, a volunteer for Climate Reality Project and Citizens Climate Lobby. Monica has presented at various venues on the value of resilience, resilient projects, case studies, sustainable design and construction, and adaptation for resilience. She constantly collaborates with folks in the design, engineering, construction, risk, and insurance industries because she believes in the power of partnerships to move the needle towards a vital world. And she's a 39-time marathon finisher. So that's pretty impressive in itself. Monica lives in New Jersey with her family, and welcome, Monica.
Thank you, Leslie. Let me share my computer, my screen. Can you see my screen?
Yep, I see it.
Yes. Looks good.
Okay. Excellent. So my name is Monica Serrano. I'm with Turner Construction. It's a pleasure to be here. A little bit about myself. I'm originally from Venezuela. I came to the US when I was 17. I spent a year in the Poconos as an exchange student. And I ended up going to Lafayette College, graduated as a mechanical engineer, and started working for Turner back then. That was 16 years ago. Since then, I have worked for 6 different offices, including the Pittsburgh office and the Philadelphia office. And I have spent this time both in the field and in the office. Something that was a constant, though, was my passion for sustainability. I started becoming very interested in sustainability when I started studying for my LEED Green Associate exam about 7 or 8 years ago. And this whole world opened up, I honestly didn't know much about climate change, and this whole challenge was just in front of my eyes, and I decided I wanted to spend the rest of my career mitigating and adapting to climate change. And so I got many other certifications besides the LEED Green Associate that I'm not going to bore you with. but I did become a Climate Reality Project leader, which I know Climate Reality Project is a sponsor tonight. Thank you. On my free time when I'm not working, I spend time with my family, and I also like running long distances. The length of the distances depends on how well or poorly behaved my kids are. So today I'm going to tell you a little bit about Turner, a little bit about my job, and just looking ahead in our industry. So Turner has been around for about 100 years. We have 45 offices across the country and about 5,000 employees nationwide. We build anything but roads and bridges. So we build large buildings, but also we do small interior renovations. We build hospitals, schools, community centers, stadiums, data centers, airports. Our clients are both private and public entities. For 13 years in a row, we have been named the top green builder by ENR. And that's great. That just means that we build a lot of green buildings. But a couple of years ago, we took a step back and said, okay, if we take all these green buildings we built away, are we still a green company? Are we still a sustainable company? And we realized that we needed to step it up. And in 2019, we launched our sustainability card that has three main pillars. One is environmental efficiency, and it really boils down to our Turner 2030 goal, which is basically our commitment to reducing our emissions in the job sites by 50% by 2030. And so we are currently metering the water, the energy, the fuel of about 70 job sites across the country to establish our baseline and to come up with solutions to reduce our greenhouse gases emissions and implement them. And we have implemented some. I will highlight a couple in the next couple of slides. The next pillar is resiliency, which I'll go into detail because that's the pillar that I'm in charge of. And then green buildings is just basically our commitment to continuing building green buildings, but not just LEED, not just certain certifications, really beyond just making beautiful buildings that are better for the environment and for the occupants and the occupants' health and well-being. Some of the reduction strategies we have implemented in our job sites are the no idling policy. This came from the fact that EPA a couple of years ago said that if construction firms could reduce idling by 10%, the resulting greenhouse gases emission reduction would be 1.8 billion pounds of CO2 per year. So just a lot. Idling is something that is just not necessary, but it was kind of ingrained in the construction culture. So this is a policy, and it's even in our subcontracts. We also use LED lighting for temporary lighting. I mean, LED technologies has been around for over a decade. It's proven that it's more efficient and it's more durable. So that's the lighting that we use in our job sites. We also, have focused. I'm super happy to hear carbon embodied in the conversation of the presenters, because that is something that we're also starting to provide services around, and definitely a very hot topic in the industry. So let's move on to talk about resilience. And this is the program that I manage at Turner. I thought that it would be important to define resiliency, and Jeff did a very good job about defining it as well. So I will piggyback on what he talked about. So resiliency is really about embracing change. It's about understanding that our world is changing, and we're going to face disturbance and disruptions, and we have to be prepared for these disruptions. I think it's also important to, Jeff also had a slide on it, so I'll piggyback on what he talked about. So resilience is about embracing change, and sustainability is about protecting our resources. They're both needed. There are many synergies between resiliency and sustainability, but there are times where we're going to have to play like a balancing game, and you can't just incorporate both 100%. So I'll give you a very basic example that kind of illustrates the difference between resiliency and sustainability and the challenge. So think back to the beginning of the pandemic, when it was very hard to find PPE, masks, gloves, and hand sanitizers. And a resilient measure would be to have warehouses in all of our communities and all of our companies full of PPE, just so that we're ready for the next pandemic. That is a resilient measure, but it's not really a sustainable measure, because it's a lot of resources spent making all this material and keeping it somewhere and space occupied, because we don't know if we may use it and when we will use it. So there are conflicts between sustainability and resiliency, but they're both needed. When it comes to climate change, Sustainability, again, is about mitigating, climate change, reducing our carbon emissions. And resilience is about just understanding that climate change, there's some changes from climate change that are not reversible. And so we're just going to have to face them and deal with them. And how are we going to thrive, in the face of change? The need for resilience has always been there, but it has not been more obvious than today, because we have been living more and more with interruptions, starting with COVID and the unique year that we have had. We have continued to build and operate in the midst of adversity. We are living what truly being adaptable means, and that's the essence of resilience. That, combined with all the natural disasters and disruptions that are happening more intensely and more repetitively, and will continue to happen, unfortunately, because there are effects from climate change that will not be reversible. What resiliency means at Turner, we see resilience residing in three buckets: in our buildings, the buildings that we built, in our operations, and in our people. When it comes to our buildings, we see resilience as the intentional design of our buildings. It's building for the future, looking at future climate projections, incorporating provisions for future disruptions. Here in the picture, you can see the Whitney Museum of American Art in New York. Interestingly enough, it was under construction when Sandy hit, and construction stopped. It was slightly redesigned, and now the museum incorporates flood barriers, elevated structures, and reinforced foundations. In the picture, you can see the Oklahoma University Medical Center in Oklahoma City. This is the second building in the US to follow the RELI pilot standards. It later became a certification administered by USGBC, the RELI certification, and it's a comprehensive certification of resilient buildings. This building can operate for 4 days after a disruption independently. These are just a couple of many other projects we have built with resilient features. When it comes to our operations, resilience means assessing and improving the resilience of our operations. Can we still operate in the face of adversity? We're evaluating our supply chain and making programs to improve our supply chain resilience, as well as evaluating potential disruptions and making plans to respond and adapt depending on the disruption. Resilience also refers to personal resilience, how resilient, adaptable, and flexible we are. Personal resilience is a learned skill, and studies show that the more adaptable we all are to changing conditions, the more creative, effective, and happier we are. And so this is what I do at Turner. I manage this program, I create initiatives, I gather information, and educate folks within my company on the topic so they can speak on it, so they're experts on the topic too, and they incorporate it in their operations and their work. I collaborate with folks outside the firm, all to ultimately build a more resilient future where we can thrive despite disruptions. And moving a little bit beyond just Turner and onto the sustainability construction industry as a whole, in the last few years, I have seen an increase in job opportunities that involve these topics and more. However, I have witnessed an increase in interest in the sustainability field. It's a competitive market, but when I graduated from school, there were no degrees in sustainability. There were no classes in sustainability in most schools. Some did, but most schools didn't. Nowadays, at a minimum, schools have courses around sustainability-related topics. The good news, though, is that these topics are becoming very important in the construction industry, and I am confident that building more sustainably and building more resiliently will be the norm than the exception, because it's simply essential for a thriving future for our communities and our planet. I look forward to the conversation later on, and here's my contact information if you want to chat after this presentation. And this is one of the FIPS buildings that we built. Here's my contact info, and I look forward to talking more. Thank you.
Thank you, Monica. I really appreciate that. A couple things I really loved about your presentation, definitely looking at some of the alignments and differences between sustainability and resilience, looking at personal resilience in addition to environmental resilience, because both are incredibly important. And I really appreciated hearing some of your insights about the industry. So one thing is we can still see your screen, just so you know. I really appreciated hearing some of your insights about how the industry has shifted from when you were in school to now seeing a lot more trends around sustainability in those career paths. So I just really appreciate that. Thank you so much for your presentation. Great. Okay, well, we're going to transition to Andrew Ellsworth now. So Andrew and I have worked together for a long time. He used to be my boss. He's a great guy. He's a great baker. And he is the founder and CEO of Doors Unhinged. This is the first U.S. company to exclusively sell reclaimed commercial door systems. Doors Unhinged has been delivering high-quality products to commercial clients since 2018, outfitting numerous renovations and new building projects across the region with reclaimed materials. Andrew shares his commitments to circular economy, community investment, and zero waste principles regularly at national conferences. Most recently, just last week, I think, at the Living Future Conference at Reuse Minnesota 2020, BSA Embodied Carbon 101 series, and Carbon Positive 2020. In addition, he is inspiring more businesses to enter the commercial building material reuse ecosystem with All for Reuse, a nationwide organization he spearheaded in 2020 alongside architecture, construction, and sustainability professionals pushing to change how commercial buildings are designed and constructed. Prior to starting Doors Unhinged, Andrew worked in sustainable enterprise development, lead consulting, and healthy and high-performing schools. He served for 6 years on the board of Construction Junction, a local material reuse nonprofit. Many of you are familiar with it, and regularly volunteers as an environmental health advocate, a food rescue volunteer, and a kids soccer coach. He has a Bachelor of Architecture from Carnegie Mellon University and lives in Pittsburgh with his wife and his 2 kids. I'll let you take it away, Andrew.
Thank you so much, Leslie. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Good, great. Okay. Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for being here. I'm Andrew Ellsworth with Doors Unhinged. I really appreciated that intro, Leslie, and it's great to be collaborating with you again. Jump right in. So what we do is we sell reclaimed commercial door systems. So unlike an organization like Construction Junction, we're focused in the commercial sector, and we're focused on one material type because we recognize that's how the industry works. To just give you a view of what this looks like, we turn things that we find either in a warehouse like this, or that we go deconstruct ourselves, and we turn them into legitimate architectural products to go into a commercial project. It's a very different business model than Construction Junction, but it actually isn't that much more difficult from the general paradigm. So here it is again, right? Skip that one, sorry. So we took these out ourselves. That's why they're neatly stacked, right? And they turn into something, this is New Sun Rising. More from the North Shore over to Society for Contemporary Craft. Okay, so why did we do this? Really, I believe that there was a huge opportunity based on the fact that there's all these really high quality commercial materials that are like new going to the landfill. And so to kind of make this possible, we really realized instead of standing on the sidelines, we have to get in and do it and show that it was possible. We had to prove that there was a real market for this. Second, we actually wanted to use those materials, capture them out of the waste stream, and take all the other environmental benefits that go with it. And third, and Leslie alluded to this in the intro, is how do we get others into this game? How do we really soften the ground and create the market conditions for this to be possible? So I would say this is kind of where we are now. And this doesn't look like much and doesn't make much sense, right? But I see us as really being the first sprout in a really robust and beautiful ecosystem. Material reuse is where carbon and waste come together. It's an amazing opportunity to reduce carbon and while also reducing waste, while also putting people to work and saving money. This is a poster I created for the Project Drawdown Conference about a year and a half ago. And I'm happy to share this, but I want to zoom in on one aspect of it, which is really looking at the carbon footprint of individual products. And we're comparing products really on a pound for pound basis here. But the most important takeaway here is, if you look at the very last row, you almost can't see it. That's reclaimed materials, right? 99% reduction in embodied carbon, which is essentially us taking materials out of a building, putting them on a truck and moving them somewhere, right? Almost minimal. And this is a huge opportunity. I think we're in a space where we need to think transformationally about the types of products we use. The profession is very resistant to this kind of material, despite this type of opportunity, and that's what we all need to get together and try and address. here are a few projects we've worked on locally. This is a co-working space in Manchester neighborhood, and these doors came from various places. The top right is wonderful. Those came from the President's Suite at Carnegie Mellon. These are original 50s vintage walnut, and they're gorgeous. Sorry, these images are a little slow. So Society for Contemporary Craft. Lovely space. We were able to provide them with a higher quality material than they would have gotten otherwise, and give them a better deal for it. And again, a lot of these doors are kind of support oriented, right? They're not big flashy front doors. And so sometimes having something that might not be 100% match is just fine. This is one I'm really excited about. We're about to deliver to the Roundhouse building, Hazelwood Green, which is also going to be a co-working space. We'll be taking those down in about 2 weeks. We've been working pretty hard and working with the design team and the contractor to get that going. So look out for some better images of this once they're up and installed and painted. We are delivering some materials to Carnegie Mellon, to one of the suites inside the building. And the greatest thing about this is these doors actually came out of a different building at Carnegie Mellon about a year prior. Lots of other projects in the works, either recently finished and we haven't been able to take photos, or things that are in the pipeline now. This is what our warehouse looks like. This is actually the old warehouse in Oakland, and we've since moved to Construction Junction, and this is what it looks like now. There's a lot going on. We have a lot of materials. The beautiful thing is we really didn't pay anything for these materials, and that's how we can make a real viable business on kind of creating a secondary market for these, because we get these at just the cost of going to get them. This is what this work looks like, okay? We're literally taking doors and stacking them on pallets and putting them in a truck and moving them. A lot of opportunity for employment here, I believe, and I'll get into that in a second. Hardware is amazing. There's so much value, residual value in this hardware. One of those buckets there is probably worth close to $1,000 if those things were purchased new. Okay, I'm going to talk about all for reuse, because we have this two-pronged approach. I realized maybe a year and a half ago that if we're just kind of working away in our own little corner, I don't think we're going to get to the impact we need for material reuse to be a legitimate strategy for carbon sequestration and reduction by the year 2030. So we had to scale up fast. And the idea is we need to create very apparent demand for reclaimed materials. And we launched this initiative with some collaborators around the country to really foster this conversation and allow large property owners, such as corporations, government agencies, colleges and universities, to really make public that commitment. And what that does is sends that signal to the marketplace that these products are actually something that people would consider buying, right? And there's value in them. And so that changes our perception of things like of what we think of as waste, right? Where these high quality materials are all of a sudden become a commodity, right? And so therein, with that demand, we can really backfill with the infrastructure and the enterprises that create that ecosystem, that rich ecosystem, that economy that we need to really kind of make this whole thing work. Demand alone is not going to work, but just starting businesses is not going to work either, right? We have sort of a yin and yang that we need to put together. You can find more about that at allforreuse.org. A lot of the work is happening in the Bay Area right now, just because they were so, ahead of the curve and have so much happening there. Working with a lot of large tech companies, Silicon Valley, to really kind of start down the path of that commitment and look for opportunities to integration into new projects in the future. All right, I'm basically gonna kind of talk through this. And jobs is a challenge in this sector because, as Leslie said at the outset, we're really the only company in the US working like this. Not even just indoors, but really in any commercial interior product. There are people that work in reclaimed wood and they're taking down barns and things like that. There's really a dearth of enterprises and businesses that are out there, but there's tons of opportunity, right? So as we're working on the demand, we also see the need to foster these new types of businesses that are crucial to this ecosystem. Other product-specific companies like ours that may be working in a different geography, they may be working with a different material, brokers, people that don't actually handle material, but they know the intelligence about the material. If you think about a real estate broker, we're going to need material brokers who are understanding how the materials are flowing from one building to another. Deconstruction, you're probably familiar with that idea. Construction Junction does a great job with that. In other cities, they have multiple deconstruction contractors. We just need to build our market to accommodate that. And then just moving the material around. Lots of opportunity here, but very little employment, unfortunately. So if people are out there considering what jobs look like, I would say, A, we do have a job opening. If you're interested in working with your hands and getting into the field and starting to work with these materials, I hope we can talk. But if that's not cutting it for you, I would love to help others launch a business, right? We need each other. I need others. I need competitors, right? I need partners. We need everyone and more to kind of get involved in this. And one of the things I like to say is we all need to talk about this like this is a real thing. We kind of dance around the outside and use terms like circular economy to refer to this, but we rarely get specific, and we rarely start picking up that conversation and having those with our clients, with our contractors, and with our architects. So I will leave it there. I look forward to the dialogue in the next segment.
Thank you, Andrew. And you get extra credit for coming to this presentation with a job opportunity. Thank you for that. Thank you so much. And it was great to see that you moved into the construction junction space. And it's just really, really fun to see this growing. And we can't wait to see more. I personally can't wait to hear more about the Roundhouse project. So thank you so much, Andrew. Appreciate it. All right, I'm going to introduce Nick now. Nick is our final speaker, and Nick Rubenstein. I've known Nick for a long time. I've watched his career evolve, no pun intended, because he's joining us from Evolve EA, and he believes that healthy and accessible spaces for all is a right, and that the built environment is the medium of most impact. Couldn't agree more. He uses data-driven models and owner experience to find solutions that balance building efficiency and performance. As Evolve EA's building rating system manager, Nick's background in building operations and maintenance allows him to optimize functionality while ensuring that sustainability remains a priority in design and operation of our built environment. Nick currently consults on a number of sustainability certifications for multi-residential buildings, commercial interior fit-outs, healthcare facilities, and higher education projects. He's passionate about the environment and has enjoyed his time working on farms across the United States. And before joining Evolve EA, he was part of the Phipps Conservatory Facilities Department, managing green buildings and landscape operations. Nick served on GBA's Emerging Professionals Committee, helping to coordinate education sessions that served as a foundation for higher level sustainability courses. That was so fun to work on that with you. One of Nick's favorite projects can be seen at the University of Pittsburgh, where his team won first place in the Sustainable Solutions competition for the design and installation of Marley Gardens, a native landscape that implements stormwater mitigation techniques in the heart of Pitt's urban campus. Thriving to this day, Marley Gardens is a true testament to sustainable design that meets the needs of the present without compromising future resources. Nick earned his BA in Environmental Studies from the University of Pittsburgh, and he's a LEED accredited professional, a WELL AP, and a Fitwel ambassador. Take it away, Nick.
Thank you, Leslie. Yeah, and some great presentations that we heard earlier. I'd like to just say it's really interesting to see just all the presentations and the organizations that put them on. Like Leslie said, I've been working in Pittsburgh for a little bit now, and it's amazing to see. Andrew, I remember you 5 years ago walking around with a bucket of door hardware, and to see where you are now, I think it just is a testament to where the industry is going. So with that, let me share my screen. So like Leslie said, I'm a sustainability consultant at Evolve Environment Architecture. Evolve is a green building consulting and design firm. We are B Corp certified, just certified. We're a LEED proven provider. We're a member of the AIA, and we're also a member of the USGBC as well. So not only are we talking the talk, but we're also walking the walk as well. Like I was saying earlier, Evolve, we're a small but nimble firm. we have an integrated team of highly professional employees, ranging from landscape architecture to environmental sciences to ownership, different levels in that whole chain of sustainability. And so where that really works is, so being a sustainability consultant, I'm sure as you've noticed from the other presentations, it's a wide field, a breadth of knowledge that makes up the sustainability industry. And so where I come in as being a sustainability consultant is being able to talk to the architects, the contractors, Andrew, the building materials, supply chain, and bringing them together and making sure that the sustainable goals and ideals of a project is being met throughout the entirety of the process. So like I was saying, my name is Nick Rubenstein. I'm a lead AP BD&C, so that stands for Building Design and Construction. I'm a WELL AP and I'm a Fitwel ambassador. I'm a senior project manager with Evolve, and so I've overseen 20 plus certification projects with my time at Evolve. A ton of projects in the Pittsburgh region. So I'd like to start by just zooming out to the PA region in general. The PA has seen a growth in the green building sector, clean energy jobs. And a lot of that is due to a mandate from the top. It's from the governor pulling together a group of like-minded folk to pull together the Pennsylvania Climate Action Plan. And what that does is it really sets a directive for the entire industry, for the entire state. At a very high level, you're establishing values. And so that gets everyone on the same page. This is where we're going as a state. So from there, you can kind of pull in to the community level. And so like Andrew was saying, we're going to talk about Hazelwood Green as a development. So within Hazelwood Green, you have Roundhouse on one end. On the other end, you have Mill 19. Those have been the catalyst projects in that development, starting the process of green building in between. And so with the similar to the Pennsylvania Climate Action Plan, this Hazelwood Green, it has what's called a preliminary land development plan, the PLDP. And that again sets high level goals for the south to north development that is Hazelwood Green. Any buildings that are being built must be LEED Gold certified. Any parcels over 0.3 acres that are being developed must be LEED ND certified. And so it's setting these high level targets for these developments to meet. So like I said, I'm gonna talk about Hazelwood Green. And so if you can see my mouse, this is actually on one end, you have Mill 19. On the very other end, you'll have your Hazelwood Green Roundhouse. And then in between is the development that we're starting to see because of these two catalyst projects. So I'm gonna start with Mill 19. And so this was a really cool project. It's an old steel mill that they kept the superstructure, the steel beams. They kept the superstructure, and within it, they're building three standalone buildings. One being a CMU building, and the others following along. So I worked on the CMU portion of this building. Along with Turner, actually, and so this was a really neat project in that we're talking about jobs. This was a place for manufacturing and high level tech manufacturing at that. So, and not only is it can't see any of these pictures right here, but not only are there buildings being built inside of here, but you got to think of the system as a whole. So there's landscape being put in, there are roads that leading up to the site, there's a transportation network being put in, the solar array that was put on the roof is the largest continuous rooftop array in the country. So a really significant project that's kind of was the catalyst to the whole Hazelwood Green development. And like I said, this is a big job producer. A lot of manufacturing, high-tech jobs are coming into this region now. And then on the other end, Andrew, you got the Hazelwood Green Roundhouse. And this is such a neat project. Again, similar to the Mill 19, very, very old, dilapidated steel era building. It was essentially at the very end of the road. The rail cars would get to this where the rainwater garden will be, and it would turn around based on where the car needed to go, if it had to go for repairs or if it was going on a different line. And so now, like Andrew said, this is going to be entrepreneurship space and work, free address workspace. And so another opportunity for jobs to be brought in from multiple areas. So the company that is moving in is it's an entrepreneurship company. And so it's not only in itself bringing its own jobs, but it's also trying to pull in other people into its workstation.
One Valley.
So that's it. Yes. Thank you. One Valley. Thank you. And so, this is on the north end of the Hazelwood Green development. And then on the south end, you have Mill 19. And these two projects have really helped build momentum for the whole development, Hazelwood Green as a whole. So with that, like I said, sustainability it's such a broad field. There are many trades that pull together to bring us what is sustainability. And so again, that's where as being a sustainability consultant, I need to be up to date with all of these different sustainable ideals and how to bring them together. That is the nexus that is sustainability. And so it's multifaceted, and there are a ton of inputs that create this green building. You have renewable energy, you have construction materials, healthy spaces, resiliency, carbon reduction. And so the industry in general has a ton of different peers that you can hook onto. And so I forget the speaker, I think it was Jeff, whatever you're into, you can tackle sustainability from that viewpoint. And so that's what I think is really cool about just sustainable construction in general is you can really find what hooks you and tackle it from that end. Like I said, it's a multifaceted field. One way to bring these all together and to kind of organize it into discernible thoughts are these sustainability standards. So you have what I work on, LEED, sites, WELL, all the way to sustainable development goals. That's more of like a global initiative. And so all of these frameworks not only are they're not only created, but they're also, it's an iterative process. And so they are continually being updated. Every 3 months, an addenda is released. And so that should show you where these aren't just one and done. You create a standard and then you're finished. We are continually looking at these sustainability standards and readjusting based on new science, new data. And so that, that should show you where the industry is really heading. So this is a big number. It's such a big number. I don't really think anyone here actually understands this number. So 820 billion, that is the specific, not the exact number, but 820 billion is what the president's infrastructure package is directly relating to sustainability, energy efficiency, resiliency. So multimodal transportation, EVs, grid resiliency, directly relating to sustainability. So that's 40% of the entire infrastructure budget from that was just released. And that's, I'm sure the rest of it, that's only what I was able to skim through. There's a ton of other money that is indirectly associated with sustainability, resiliency. And this isn't even a progressive agenda, I would argue. So it's, if you don't take my word for it, just take the money's word for it. This is where the market is going. I thought this was an interesting slide. So even since 2017, clean energy companies have just blown the return from fossil fuel companies out of the water. And we just went through a massive global shock stressor. Supply chains need to be rebuilt. The global system is being rebuilt, and we're not going to rebuild it to old standards, so it's just the way things are going. Any questions? Here's my email if I didn't hit any topics, or if I didn't explain anything well, you can feel free to email me.
Thank you so much, Nick, for wrapping us up there. We appreciate it. I loved you talking about sort of the Hazelwood green development as a catalyst that can impact a lot of different jobs, and letting the money speak for itself. So thank you so much. At this point, I think I'm going to ask each of our panelists to turn on their video and come back to the screen. We're going to do a quick Q&A with the panelists, and then we're going to go to breakout rooms. And thank you, Andrew. Yeah, for all of our speakers, if you don't mind putting your contact information in the chat as well, that would be really helpful, because I know folks have questions. So I saw a lot of questions in the chat for individual panelists. And so I think we should save those questions for the breakout rooms, because that's everybody's opportunity to sit in a breakout room with our panelists and ask those specific targeted questions. So from my look at the chat, I didn't actually see anything that was a holistic question for the whole group. So I think I'm just going to ask sort of a closing question here for all of you. I don't see, there you are, Andrew. Okay, great. Thank you. My closing question for each of you is just to kind of wrap up this conversation before the breakout room, because you each, I think, did a great job of sharing some insights into, the future of jobs within your industries and how people can get into those industries. I think I'm going to ask you the same question that I asked Craig and Zoja, which is, if you had, one piece of advice, maybe one or two sentences for somebody who wants to get into this industry, whether it's a specific skill or credential they should be building, or if it's more of a philosophy that they should be working under, I'd love to hear that. So Monica, let's start with you. What's your advice for somebody who wants to enter this field?
My advice is a network. Find that subtopic within sustainability that really you're passionate about, and just find all the specialists and all the subject matter experts, learn from them, and just build your network.
That's great. Thank you. Andrew, what about you?
All right. This may sound like a trope, but I would say, don't wait. Go find a job doing it. Work hard and bring your passion to it. And I think you will do just like I think everyone here has done, is kind of like work your way up until you are the thought leader. So bring your commitment.
I love it. Thank you. Jeff, how about you?
Oh, I like passion. I think passion makes everything work better. Designers really need to be generalists. So, being deeply curious about how the world works, about how people work, about how the environment works, I think that begins everything. So when you're curious, then you can think about what kind of credentials you can go get. And some credentials are expensive to get, others are not. You have to think about your pathway. A lot of times I've seen people enter my profession, architecture, through very modest ways and work their way up. and get the kinds of degrees that they need to be able to do this. But it's just such a dynamic thing. If you're a social scientist, you have a degree in sociology or psychology or something like that, and you're passionate about the built environment, there's an opportunity for you. We're hiring those people in our consulting practice. As I mentioned before, we have 130 job openings across the nation right now. So, there are opportunities there. And again, I can't think of anything more interesting than making good places.
I agree. I love that. Thank you so much. Nick, what about you?
Yeah, so I'll just I'll piggyback off of Andrew's point. If you want to work in this industry, do it. Go make it happen. Like I said, you can tackle sustainability from whichever angle you want to tackle sustainability from. So you just kind of have to make those connections. You got to start emailing people and take a lead GA class with Leslie.
That's right. Thanks, Nick.
On your birthday, specifically.
That's right.
Yeah.
If you take the lead GA class on your birthday, you get to have a cupcake. That's right. So that's great. I did notice in the chat, somebody mentioned that there was a question that was for everybody. So I do really completely appreciate you sharing your tips. But one really great question that was in the chat that was for everybody, just to get some of your thoughts on this, is there was a question about sort of balancing sustainable design with other impacts like gentrification. So a lot of you did talk about the holistic nature of sustainability that addresses the environment and humans. But do any of you have any wisdom or advice or thoughts on how we can make sure, particularly in a time like this when so many people are impacted by all the systems that have been failing, is how can we prioritize the environment but also people at the same time? And what's the best way to approach that? Does anybody want to take that question?
I'll start because I think this is so important. And I want to make this point. As a designers, we care about beauty. And one of the things I always tell clients and tell everybody I can is we should never confuse beauty with luxury. I think this is a really point that we miss out on. We all deserve a piece of the good life, and designers have to have empathy. We have to have empathy for everybody we work with and everybody that's impacted by our work. But it's not easy to design on small budgets. It's not easy to make beautiful places where there's not a lot of money and investment. It's possible. And it's really important that we look at that. I think that's a powerful way to bring development to areas without pushing people out. So I know that's just one little teeny piece of the answer, but that's my piece.
Thank you, Jeff. Did you have something too, Nick?
Yeah, I'll just, so with the whole Hazelwood Green development, we've been trying to do the right thing with this. And from my point of view, I can have a checklist that says this project is meeting these equity guidelines, but it's just that, it's a checklist, it's a box. So to really have an impact in the community, you have to go a step further, and you really have to make a 100% effort. It's not just a box that you check off and submit and get a point for it. It's something that you actually have to work for. And it is, I wish I had a little more to tell you, but it's a difficult paradigm right now.
Thank you.
I'll add one piece to this. I'll say two short things. I know we want to move on. One, I think this is a great question. And I think for a lot of people, it's from a systems level, it's easy to participate in a system that you don't necessarily agree with the values of, right? I think we all do that to some extent, and it's unfortunate, and we need to continue to change the system. Second, I think communities need to be rebuilt from within, and outside investment just tends to benefit those outside. And so investing in those communities to allow those communities to kind of build themselves up, I think, is the solution. And I don't have any better answers than that.
Yeah, I think just to add my 2 cents, I think it's just an ongoing challenge. And I think the immediate solution I see is just to get ingrained in our communities, just to get to know our communities, just so that we know, we make sure that the impact that our buildings and our designs are having in the community is positive. And if it's not, just be comfortable with being uncomfortable and bring it up to, the applicable parties.
That's right. Well, thank you all for taking that question. I think one of the things that I'm inspired by when we talk about things like social equity is that I think there's so much capacity within the green building industry to be proactive about social equity, because we are used to taking more time up front, really weighing the long-term impacts of our decisions and looking at things, systemically, to make sure that one decision here isn't going to cause something terrible to happen over here. It's something we're already used to doing. And I think, we're already used to doing as it relates mainly to the environment. But if we can add that lens to it, I think it's something we're all, really capable of doing. And I'm excited to see how we can have an impact there. So thank you all so much. I want to thank our presenters again. I want to thank all of you for being here. And I want to say a thank you to the folks who are watching on the Facebook live stream, because we are going to stop that recording now as we transition to breakout rooms. I know we're just about at the end of our allotted time. And so really this is just a quick opportunity to have a conversation with a specific panelist. I think we'll keep it short to probably about maybe 10, maybe 15 minutes. If you have to leave and sign off, that's fine. But we're going to have split breakout rooms. And so Monica and I will be in a breakout room focused on construction. Andrew is going to be in a room focused on reuse. And then Nick and Jeff will be in a room focused on design. So Mark Dixon is going to give you a pop-up that will give you the opportunity to choose the room that you want to be in. If you don't see the pop-up, just hang tight and Mark will help you. And if you end up in the wrong room for whatever reason, you can go back to the main room and Mark will assist you. So during the breakout rooms, like I said, you can ask those specific questions of the speakers, have some conversation, and then we'll come back to wrap up. So I think that'll do it. Are you ready, Mark? Hi, everybody. Even when you give us a warning, we still get cut off because we're having too much fun talking. But thank you very much for facilitating that, Mark. Okay, well, I really hope that all of you had good conversations in the breakout rooms. We had a really good conversation in the construction room. So again, I just really want to thank all of our presenters. I want to thank the event coordinators, and a big thank you to Mark for facilitating on the back end. So as a reminder, I just want to encourage you all to check out reimaginejobs.org for more career opportunities and insights. If you're with an organization, they would love for you to consider becoming an exhibitor on the site. And tonight's program is a part of a series of monthly programs diving deeper into these topics. You can follow them on Twitter and Facebook. The next program that will follow this one will be on May 26th, and that is going to focus on workforce development, which I think is the perfect follow-up for this conversation. So thank you again for joining tonight, and we really hope that this is just the beginning of the conversation. So we hope you all have a wonderful evening. And thanks for coming.